Greetings. I am your brother Minister Wasim Muhammad. Welcome to another edition of Muhammad Speaks Radio, where once again I am your host this evening, your brother Minister Wasim Muhammad. In the most holy name of Allah, who appeared to us in the person of Master Farad Muhammad, to whom praise is due forever, we can never thank Almighty God, Allah, for coming and raising in our midst a divine leader teacher and guide in the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. It is in their great names that I greet this audience with the greetings of peace. We say it in Arabic, Assalamu alaikum. If you're new and just tuning in here on Muhammad Speaks Radio, that is not a password. That is the greeting of the righteous that we greet each other. Peace be unto you. This is God's peace. That is a prayer that we say to the next brother and or sister, to tell them in so many words that you can put your guard down. This brother is not trying to lie to you. This brother is not trying to rob you or steal you or malign you or go behind your back and slack talk and gossip. That when I say it, I mean it, and it's a prayer, and you should give it back to me as strong and as exuberant and as vibrant as I have given it to you. And that response will be wa alaikum salam, upon you peace too. My dear brothers and sisters, once again, I am your brother Minister Wasim Muhammad, the host this evening of Muhammad Speaks Radio, and I'm excited, as I'm always as excited, every Tuesday evening as we have been here sharing the life-giving teachings of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad with this audience, and I am so very grateful and happy to do such. And I want to thank the brothers and sisters of Muhammad's Temple of Islam number 20 here in Camden, New Jersey. We're located at 1157 Hatton Avenue in Camden, New Jersey. And it is exciting to represent this wonderful brothers and sisters here on Hatton Avenue. I thank them all for this opportunity to represent and I thank them all for their support, to represent such a exuberant and vibrant community that is giving birth to the life-giving teachings of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad here in Camden City, Camden County, South Jersey, and the Delaware Valley. We also want to take this opportunity to thank the wonderful brothers and sisters of CROW. CROW is the Coalition for the Remembrance of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. They are the National Archives of the Nation of Islam. They've been around for almost 40 years. Making sure that we preserve and promote and have the history of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. As we know, this history was once buried in 1975, and it was these brothers and sisters that was there in the city of Chicago, along with others, very humble and righteous people trying to do a magnificent work of preserving the teachings and the history and the legacy of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. We thank all of you for what you all have done to preserve these teachings. And now these teachings are back again. And the program and position is being rebuilt all over this country and all over and around brothers and sisters and communities and Muslim leaders and ministers of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad that got themselves back together are beginning to and have begun to, because a lot of them has passed on and some of them are still here and being great examples of longevity and tenacity when it comes to fulfilling our duty as Muslims to this program and position and going after our people and letting them know what time it is and what time we're living in today, and letting them know that we were blessed with a messenger of God, the messenger of Allah, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, in our communities, whom you were just listening to in our opening clip. That we take this opportunity the beginning of every Muhammad Speaks radio show that we hear on WTMR 800 AM here in the Delaware Valley, or you can view us on or listen to us, pardon me, on WTMR 800. Pardon me, I already said that, but on WTMR radio.com. That's WTMRradio.com. com on the worldwide, on the internet, on social streaming live. And you can also view us on Facebook, on our Muhammad Speaks radio page, and also YouTube on the Nation of Islam, Muhammad's Temple number 20 page, and also on Instagram live, Brother Minister Wasim's page on Instagram live. And we're just excited. As always, we got a lot to talk about this week. There's a lot going on here and it's going on in this country. There's a lot going on in the state of New Jersey. There's a lot going on locally here in Camden. And we tend to lead this conversation tonight in that direction of what's going on in our communities because we are taught by the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, a student of his, that we always must speak, and of course, in the present time that we're living in, and make all what we were taught relate to the times that we're in. And we always look at the past, the present, and our future as we are taught to speak of according to our lessons given to us by the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, that we who are Muslims follow in these lessons because there's a lot of wisdom in it. And for those who just listening and viewing for your first time, bear with us. If you keep tuning in to Muhammad Speaks Radio, or come and visit us, or go to our website. Our website is temple20.org. That's TEMPLE 20.org. Temple20.org. You can go there to see what you can do in order to follow us and follow our streamings and follow our temple's progress and follow what we do here in the city of Camden, that we've been here back on our post for 17 years, working hard and strong on behalf of freedom, justice, and equality for our people here in Camden County, South Jersey, and the Delaware Valley. We are very, very excited to broadcast here on WTMR 800 AM in the Delaware Valley for 16 years now. And we're going on 16 years of being consistent. And consistency is what really matters in this work. It's not only we will see the change in oneself, the change in ourselves, but you will begin to see the change in our communities if we are sincere, if we are dedicated to the cause, and if Allah God is with us. And as we take this journey, as this Holy Quran teaches us, that had it been a near gain or a short journey, they would definitely had followed us, but the journey was too long for some of us, and we fell off. And we went in direction. We start and stop and stop and start and go back again. But nevertheless, those of us who are from the foundation, we're here. And I'm always excited about the brothers and sisters, and particularly the sisters of Muhammad's Temple of Islam, number 20, and the group of young brothers that we have that are going out doing amazing things, impacting their community, building families, building themselves, whether they're in college or careers and doing certain things. And I'm just excited. But you do know this in evening, as we're getting closer to coming up in this November. November's right around the corner, a few days away. But there is an election here in the state of New Jersey. New Jersey is changing its governorship. Um, Governor Phil Murphy has performed his 2 terms as governor. He no longer can be governor according to the Constitution of the state of New Jersey. So New Jersey will have a new governor coming this new year in 2026 in January. And it's a very much watched race because this particular race here in New Jersey, I believe is it's only 3 governor races around this country, and I believe in Maryland and in Virginia. And this governor race will show you and I where this country is at. It will give us a parameter to look at ourselves and look at this country. But what I want to talk about tonight is something different. It's based on that. You vote your conscience. You go in what direction that you're going to go in. I know I'm more so of a local man because we do have county and local elections going on this month. And for those who don't know, I am a Camden City Democrat here. I support the Camden City Democrat Committee, which is co-chaired by our dear sister, Sister Nora Muhammad, here of Muhammad's Temple number 20, who's such a diligent and intelligent and vibrant sister. Her names precede her as it means uh, um, the light. Her name precedes her, and we're just excited about her leadership and her training of young girls and women here at Muhammad's Temple and in this as Camden City and abroad in the work that she do. And we're just excited by her. But, I am a local Democrat here in the city of Camden. I support with all of my vigor, the current mayor of the city of Camden, Mayor Vic Karstafen. I support him 100% here in the city of Camden and his leadership. He is a great leader here in the city of Camden. He's popular, and he's just 100% a great leader here in our city of Camden and the column one Democrats, as they would say here in the city of Camden and the Camden County. But nevertheless, that's locally, and all politics is local. So you got to be concerned of what's going on in your neighborhood and what goes on in your community. But on top is the governor's race, and this is an exciting time that we're living, and we're going to talk a little bit about that tonight because we're going to shift it a little bit to have our audience think a little bit about the times we're living in. And looking backwards, as I stated earlier, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad taught us that we should always look at the past, present, and future when we speak, when we think, when we're building, when we're progressing. We should think about all of those things because they're meaningful. And if you don't, as the old saying goes, if you don't know the past, you're doomed to repeat it, and you'll just keep making or possibly make the same mistakes over and over again. So therefore, your future is going to look mighty bleak. So what I am going to talk about tonight is something that's relevant to us as a people, and I want to say to us that's listening, those who get involved in activism or community based on the fact that we participate in the electoral process in our cities, our towns, our country. But I want to talk a little bit about tonight is as we look at the past and the present, and as we should be thinking about our future. I just wanted to share with you what I say and I believe, and this is reality, and we're living it, is that as we talk about our civic duty of being responsible in our communities to get out and vote and take, activity because we are here, regardless if we we didn't come here on the Nita, Pinta, and Santa Maria. We came here in the holds of ships. Our history was distorted and cut off from us, and we quite don't know our origin back in our motherland that many of us come from. So yet we can't go home. We're here and we can't go anywhere else. And others that are here in this country that came on the Nita Pinta Santa Maria or came on the docks of New York City and where the Statue of Liberty is at, they have an origin. They can go back home. You and I don't quite know where our home is at because that history were destroyed as we were destroyed here in this country for 400 years, working as chattel slaves. So therefore, we have no home that we can go to. So that should all just ring a bell in our ears that we have to build something for ourselves because every other so-called American citizen have a place of origin where they can go back to. Things get rough in this country. They can say, hey, I'm going back. I have family in Italy. I have family in Spain. I have family in Jamaica. I have family in, this and whatnot. I have family in, in Zaire. I have family in, all the countries that they have record of their origins. But we here in this country are stuck here. So I don't disagree with those who say get involved with the electoral process because this is where we at. Local politics means everything, and what goes on top sometimes is so far beyond us. And the airplanes flying high, miles up in the sky, that is things that we can't or cannot do. However, but politics is, to me, is always local, although it has a inference on what goes up in the larger sky of politics and gubernatorial and presidential and senators and congresspersons and all of those things. And even congresspersons are tied locally to his constituents in his area. That's a part of the uh, local process of all politics of being local. And we do know that even the governor's race and the senators, U.S. senators race, and all the state electorates and the all of those things are relevant and important. But I want to ask our audience, what are we doing for ourselves? What are we thinking about when it comes to ourselves? Are we relying on, as we talk about in the history in the past, are we still relying on, as the Honorable Elijah Muhammad taught us, that we are putting our responsibility off on other people? What are we doing for ourselves? And I want to get it in a context of, when you're thinking about your future and you working your jobs out there, and many of us, when we go to the bank in order to save our money, we have a checking account and we have a savings account. A checking account is an account that we use to pay bills and to get involved, and we pay our bills, we pay our mortgage, we pay our things out of our checking accounts. Our lifestyle, it suffices our lifestyle. But when we have a savings account, the savings account supposed to be there just in case for us to say, what if something happened? And we make investments for savings, we make investments for future, and all those different type of things, because it is a precautionary measure we take in order that if money stop flowing in our operating account or our checking accounts, that we can have a savings there that we're looking for to plan our future or to plan our next move. So I'm saying to our people who are listening, black people, as we always rally up and get around and discuss the importance of the process of our civic duty as citizens, that we must, or so-called citizens, we must always think about a savings plan. We must always think about what are we going to do for ourselves, and think for self and do for self. As we just, in simple terms, whether you are a believer or not, regardless to what your religious affiliation is, regardless to how you believe, what you think, you can't go alone. We can't do things for ourselves. No man or woman is an island, but we must come together and start thinking for ourselves. Since we don't have a place of origin that we, as so called African Americans and so called American Negro, can go to, because of our place of origin has been distorted. And I know there's other African nations today that are offering our people citizenship, but in a mass movement of things, what would happen? Where will we go? As you see, this government is shutting down, its access to food. These the current events of the SNAP programs, and the state of New Jersey, along with other states, are suing the federal government. And what we see, as the Honorable Elijah Muhammad taught us, this great man who wrote books and had spoke volumes of and left us volumes of information to go by for things to think about. And this is why we have minimal progress in our what we call the black communities in this country, because as we are carving out our future, we dismiss or omit the Nation of Islam and the teachings of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. And brothers and sisters, if you don't get that teachings, if you don't get what he taught, if you don't get the revelation which was revealed to him, from Almighty God, Allah, and the person of Master Farad Muhammad, you won't know properly or be able to view the past so that you can understand the now and to be able to carve out our people's future. And that's what we're going to dedicate this show to tonight. So if you want to call in, and what say you in this conversation, give us a call, 856-962-8178. That's 856-962-8178 or 856-962-8179. That's 856-962-8178 or 8179. We want to know, what say you? What are you thinking about? What do you plan to do? What is your alternative plan? What are you thinking about in your own future and taking your future by the bullhorns and riding the horns yourself as you navigate in this country, you navigate in leadership, because this next election, my dear brothers and sisters, were here in these gubernatorial elections, especially the one here in New Jersey, where we are broadcasting live from here on WTMR 800 AM in the Delaware Valley in the city of Camden. This election will tell you a lot about the status and the state of this country and where we're going and how people are thinking. And that old time thinking that you sitting around waiting for the other fella to do something for you, which you should do for yourself. There's a new attitude among people in this nation. And that attitude, and what we will see, and as the results of the November 4 election is right around the corner, right around our way, we will take a look at where this country and where the people are thinking and where they're going. So we're going to talk a little bit about that this evening. We're going to take a quick break to allow you an opportunity to call someone, let them know that Brother Minister Wasim Muhammad is on the air. We're just having a lively art of conversation. We're going to take a quick break and we'll be right back. We didn't acquire citizenship papers to come here. We were brought here as a piece of property. And to keep that piece of property, it is to not allow the property to know the value of the property. And what I mean by that, if you had known the history of yourself, you would not have been made a slave. And you won't be a slave now if you have a knowledge of yourself. It's hard to enslave a person that have equal knowledge with you. You just can't do it. And so this knowledge of yourself is the thing that will free you from what you have been suffering from. Do you not see how?
we are pretty ignorant in this big old wide USA. And every corner we look in, or every square foot, we find the enemy against us. And yet we won't build up a hospital so that we can take care of our own self. Try and do these things, or wait around and it'll be too late. And then you will cry, oh, woe is me, that I let such opportunity that Elijah Muhammad was teaching me to take hold of. And I fooled around and didn't do nothing but depend on the white man. Develop something for ourselves. And then the nations of the earth will recognize you as they are recognized themselves for doing for self. No need to say you don't have a chance. Oh, yes. We break the chain, brother.
And Assalamu alaikum. And we are back. And it's great to end that that segment there with the Honorable Elijah Muhammad because it's making the point of this conversation this evening that I think that is necessary. You know, the purpose of the Allah in the person of Master Farad Muhammad coming and raising a divine leader, teacher, and guide for Black people in the Honorable Elijah Muhammad was to save us from a doom that that is destined to come. As we been preached and taught about the doom and the day, and this is not doomsday teachings, but this is just a civics class, if you would like to say, to have that every great nation that's been in the history of that we have of the history of many civilizations, that every most great nations come to an end. And from our study, most great nations come to an end because of its treatment of people and what their nations and that particular government have done to people. We have plenty of examples in the Bible and plenty of examples in the Holy Quran, as well as examples in history. For those of us who are intellectual in our colleges and universities and studies, that we have, you know, just civilizations that fell as a result of its inequities, as a result of its not giving freedom and justice and equality to its people, and let alone nations that have enslaved and stole land and done a whole lot of things. But Almighty God, Allah, in the person of Master Farad Muhammad, is a just God. He comes to set equity and justice in the earth, as we are taught and what we believe. However, many of us and many in this nation can avoid, as the Honorable Elijah Muhammad taught us, what's coming down the pike, or it can be delayed based on this nation's treatment of a particular people, and that people are the people whom they enslaved. And it goes right and this coincides right with the Bible and the Holy Quran stories of every nation of and that had people that enslaved those people. As Abraham in the Bible said that he would come and judge that nation and make those people who that nation had destroyed great people, and you've been reading it in the Bible, but you somehow can't see it when it comes to yourself. You can't see it in yourself, and this is what makes the, as I mentioned earlier in the first segment, that in our studies, as we study in the past, and we don't seem to include the teachings, the theology, the divine wisdom, we call it, of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. And this is why we take so much time to share it with this audience, because it's a wake up message, it's a warning, and it's a guide of guidance for what we should be doing today. And even in basic sense, that I'm not here in a conversation to make you say, I want to change your way of religion. I want to change your way of thinking. I just want to make sense with you. I want to talk common sense. I want to talk things that are relevant. And that's why I gave the example of how we personally should handle in this universal that someone should handle their savings plan, their finances. You know, you have finances on operating and what you do every day and how you pay your bills and have to live. You have to eat. You have to get gas to go to work. You have to pay for your car. So you have operating accounts in your life that we call personally, you may call it a checking account, but you got to have what we call a savings account. A saving account is money. It's things that you put in the bank. It's things that you set away, that you put away for a rainy day, a hunger day, or a time of, or you make certain investments in your life with your job, your work, or your security and your business. You make certain investments that, hey, if something happened to me, this is what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna get me a IRA or any kind of sources that banks have for people with a rainy day, whether it's a financial hardship or whether it's a health and wellness hardship. And all of these things are possible. You know, all of these things are possible in our lives. But my question to you again, and my conversation this evening is about what exactly are we going to do? And I'm talking we, black folk here in America. What are we going to do? And personally to you, what are you thinking about? What are you going to do? Others, as I stated, have a place of origin of ethnicity that they can go to. And if this country get hot, get crazy, and this country, economic situations start collapsing, and which is very possible, it happened in 1930. If things get too stringent in this country, and then as we can see what's going on today in this country with the Republican Party and the Democrat Party, as Brother Minister is speaking right now, this government is shut down. They haven't come to agreement. There's people working at the airports that's working in government that are working and not getting paid for their jobs because the government has shut down and money has not been dispersed in certain things. How do you think? And I believe that they're saying that this is probably or close to the longest that the government has been shut down because they can't agree. The Republicans and the Democrats don't agree on how they're going to spend the money. And we're not talking about the deficit. That you don't hear that no more in this country. How the deficit is growing. If you lived on this planet, lived in this country for a little bit, these are things that politicians, and especially in presidential elections and gubernatorial elections, is how America would conserve and protect its national debt. As it was growing, it was conversations. Now we're not even discussing that in the modern era. We're not even talking about it. You don't even hear that on the news, but yet the government is shut down. Now, do you have a preparation plan? Have you thought about a preparation plan? Well, the God that's present in the person of Master Farad Muhammad, the long awaited Messiah of the Christians and the Mahdi of the Muslims, as the religion of Christianity and others, Judaism and Old World Islam, are awaiting Messianic sons of man and Mahdis to come. We in the Nation of Islam are saying that that one has come. And that man we call our Savior, Master W. Farad Muhammad. And it's interesting that he taught in his teaching and what he taught the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, he came to say to us that we are, according to Messenger Elijah Muhammad's teachings, that he did not just come to tell us who he was, he came to tell us who we are too as well. So that's just a word to the wise, should be sufficient for those who are listening. So the gods got to come together. The gods have to band together and start producing like a god and doing what gods do. We produce for ourselves, because if man don't get it done, then there's no mystery going to get it done for us. And as the Holy Quran teaches us, that Allah does not help a people till they first help themselves. And we have to get together. So we can't think for self today. You can't just think about, especially black people in this country, the descendants of slaves, those of us who've been here and been descendants of slaves, who make it very difficult to find our origin, that we can say, hey, I'm a bell up, I'm gonna go live in this particular country, although some of the countries are offering us citizenship. But if you are an individual there and you have not been accepted because you don't have universal brotherhood with ourselves, I mean, with our brothers and sisters across the Atlantic Ocean. Hell, we don't even have brotherhood here in our own neighborhoods, let alone families and communities. So it's a very difficult task to us to do that, because how do you think that people would want to see us come in their countries and we can't unite and have brotherhood among us today? And what's inspiring this conversation is not only the election that that's coming soon in November 4th here in the state of New Jersey, but what is igniting this conversation is because here in New Jersey, the last evening, convened under great leaders here, political and elected officials and business leaders here in Camden County and Burlington County, decided to come together and let's talk about and inspire each other to get more involved and work together in unity. However, beautiful turnout. Camden was in the house, and our elected officials and leaders, and Mayor Vic Karstafen, who's a compassionate about his leadership, spoke very well and inspired the crowd. And it made us all think, we should be doing this more, not just because it's an election, but we are, are in states of emergencies in our community. It's okay for us to think for ourselves. It's okay for us to come together and think about self and think about our agendas and what's going on in our neighborhood and networking with each other. It's okay to do that. We should not just be inspired to do it, alone by just an election that is forthcoming. Um, but nevertheless, brothers and sisters, as we think about these elections and this country and the state of what's coming down, we have to talk about what are we thinking about doing for self. Uh, this particular hour and this particular show won't give me enough time to talk about, stating my case to make it plain for you to see that we should think about self and we should think about doing for ourselves. But I can just give it to you quickly in the history of, as I stated earlier, that if we don't know the past, we're deemed to repeat it, and our future will look mighty bleak. And we will keep repeating the same mistakes over and over again as we fight for civility, fight for civility of civil rights. We still have to think for ourselves. We still have to do for ourselves. It's okay to live in the now and, get involved in the political process and do our civic duty and be a part of our community and not just be existing as roaches and rats and other things just exist in our community that are not wanted in our community. So when we don't get involved in the processes, then we're just existing. And that's just what, the rodents and the animals do that run rapid in some of our communities. But we got to get involved. And there's nothing wrong with that. You should do that. We should all be a part of that, especially locally, and what effect goes on high up in those skies affect what goes on down here. So you go through with your choice. However, Brother Minister Wasim Muhammad is a Camden City Democrat here in this city, so we know where we going at. But nevertheless, uh, as we do all of that, what about a savings plan? What about, something that we can control? I tell my sons both of them who are seniors this year in high school at the University of Islam, and they're inspiring student athletes to get involved. Got several colleges looking for them. My son Halim has been offered by Central Connecticut University here, and he's looking to get more offers as well as Brother YC Muhammad too as well. But I always tell them this: you should, focus on winning, because whatever you do, you should always try to do it at its best and focus on that, focus on getting better, focus on getting stronger and faster. And all the things that athletes do is focus on the whole athlete and what you're doing in the classroom and what's your future and what's your plan, thinking right, doing right, treating people right, and just acknowledging and being accepting your own and being yourself. But I always tell them, control what you can control. Don't think about things that you have no control over, right? Control what you can control. And those all of those things that I mentioned is what I say to them. And I say this on a broader level to our people. Let's continue, or let's try to control what we can control. All the other stuff is going to play itself out. And because we don't know our past and the past history of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad and the plea and the example that he was to the black community. That's why we played that clip coming out of that song and the transition song that we play music that we played for you, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad stating to us, all this big old wide USA, and we have not even a corner of it for ourselves. We won't build up a hospital, he was saying. We won't do for self. We won't think about feeding ourselves. We won't think about doing that. And he, in the Nation of Islam, at that time of that speech in 1972, the Nation of Islam was the example in the black community of doing for self. A lot of our leaders talked about doing things for self, as you hear people talk about that today. But the Honorable Elijah Muhammad demonstrated. He demonstrated it doing for self. He showed us how we can do it, what we can do. And he built it. And he didn't just build an independent nation in this country, within this nation. He didn't just do it for the Muslims. He taught us as his ministers to not only think about our Muslim community, but think about all of our people in our community, all of our people. Do speak for them, do for them, because unfortunately, some of them won't believe, some of them are disbelievers, some of them are hypocrites, some of them would never, some of them are sympathizers. But he wanted us to think for the whole and not just for the Muslim community. And he was the example of that. So you saw him in 1972, those who were around, those, and as a reminder to those who were around and those who were not around, in 1972, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad called black professionals to Chicago, and in the opening of the new temple, mega temple that they call today Mosque Mariam, but it was temple number 2, which was built by the Honorable Elijah Muhammad and the followers of the Nation of Islam. And as that was being built, he was asking for black professionals to come help him and help the progress in the process of doing for self, as he was doing international trade, as the 44 years and the 40 years then that he was among us, brothers and sisters, he was being an example of what black progress looked like. And this is why we follow his example today. This is why we believe and understand that he is the man and the model of the hour. So as he was speaking for the whole and doing for the whole, he was telling black people what we can do, as he was doing and showing it and doing it um, around the nation with the black-owned banks, that bank that he had there in Chicago, with international trade that he was doing with other countries, and he was opening up friendships in all walks of life in other nations around our African and Asian nations across this country, as they had admiration and respect for the Honorable Elijah Muhammad and the work that he was doing here in America. You need to know this history, because it gave black people, in that time, black people were very vibrant and doing so much. And it gave us a sense of pride among ourselves what the Honorable Elijah Muhammad was doing, because we were thinking and doing for ourselves. And as every black person didn't join or reclaim their home in the Nation of Islam, but most black people were sympathizers and enjoying and had confidence in what they were seeing that the Muslims were doing. And if you don't know that history, then when we talk and we say doing for self, then we have to give you the plea of why it's necessary to do for self. And it may sound like doomsday preaching to you, but it's just a savings plan for us to think about. If we would think, what if, as we see the government not in action, people working for nothing, you know, how long is that going to go on? We know that it might be politically motivated because of this November election that's coming. But however, the government is shut down. And we haven't got to the divine effects, that we have plenty of scriptures and writings and historical references to reference what happened to great nations that did a lot of injustice, that did not correct the wrong that they did. According to my study and our study, that Nineveh in the Bible was the only city that was spared, that God said that he would destroy. So we don't know what God's whether he's going to spare this country for its inequities, whether he's going to spare this country for the inequities that he did to our fathers and our people. We don't know that for sure. But what we do know is that we have to have our own savings plan. We have to have our own ideas of doing for self, especially since he raised a messenger among us to warn us about what was coming, to warn us of our chastisement, that if we did not obey and listen to what that little man was teaching us and saying to us, let alone it being buried, and many of you don't even know what he said. But he also warned this country of what was to come to this country. And as we see, those of us who are believers, we see everything that he taught coming to pass. So we have to hurry, and get busy, brothers and sisters, and uniting with self, uniting with our people, putting down our egos and our isms and schisms, and coming together as a people to think and do for self. That we will not put all of our reliance on what if this country, and guessing if there will be another benevolent president or governor, that would do something for ourselves, which we can ultimately, or do something for us, which we can ultimately and should be doing for ourselves, thinking for our own future. As we looked at that beautiful crowd yesterday, and I'm very thankful and grateful that I was accompanied by some of the young students at the University of Islam, some of them my sons, and to just show them, to compare how powerful a room looks of black men coming together. But we have to get rid of our egos. We have to get rid of our isms and what you mean ego. Everybody can't be boss. And let me say this before I close out. Stop saying, I wish we as a people would stop promoting uh, these deficiencies in our community. I would call it, stop promoting. I can't even think of a name right now, but stop promoting that we don't need leadership and leaders in the black community. Stop promoting that. Brothers and sisters, there always have to be in any organization, any body of people, any government, any church, mosque, or temple. There has to be someone who leads that the temple, mosque, church, organization, business, government, leans on. That's just not the way of civilization. We talk and plant these things in our people and in our community, and we're like the blind leading the blind talking to the blind. Brothers and sisters, Leadership is always important because leadership gives guidance. Leadership gives continuity in organizations. Now, we're not talking about sadistic leaders and egotistic leaders and narcissistic leaders. We're talking about qualified leaders. But if we are running organizations, you can't even have a non-leader in your household, or your house will be in chaos. And maybe that's why so many of our homes are in chaos and our neighborhoods are in chaos, because leadership have to come, and leaders lead. That's what leaders do. Leaders lead. Now, all of us can't be leaders. Some of us has to acquiesce and bow to others, right? And support leaders so that we can get off. So that narrative that we hear in our communities, we don't need no more leaders. We don't need no black leaders. We don't need this. Brothers and sisters, that can be as far as the truth as the East and West. We got to have thorough organization, you know. Can you imagine your brain saying to your body, when a brain is not the leader of your body, brothers and sisters, that's called someone who's suffering from a stroke. Someone is, suffering from, extremities that can't function properly because the brain is supposed to send proper signals to the rest of the body. Let those natural ideas of the laws of nature tell us about how we should be operating in our community. All can't be leaders. Okay, you can lead where you lead, right? But you got to band together with others, and we always put the best team on the floor, or the best, the best in, if the boxer, if he's ranked, you got 10 ranked boxers, there's one who sit that's the champion, and he's one. It always got to be one who is tried and tested and accepted to lead. So let's stop spreading those disorganized and disunified messages in our community. And we wonder why our young people are looking at us crazy, because we should be a greater and better examples to them, not only in speech and in narratives, but in our actions and deeds and what we do. My dear brothers and sisters, this time is winding down, as always, and I thank WTMR for allowing me this opportunity to broadcast again and again here on this radio station. Maybe and as I stated, I think next Tuesday is the 4th, correct? Oh, okay. So we'll be saying something. Keep your eyes on it. But nevertheless, let's think and do for self as we are participators, active participators in what goes on. And remember, here in the city of Camden, let's support Mayor Vic Karstoffen and the Column One Democrat teams here locally, and vote your conscience. That's all I can say, and others. My dear brother, and I do support Camden County Democrat Committee too as well. And I'm not afraid to say it and to do it. I'm not the kind of person that people who helped you and I along the way. Now we are no longer, in office. Now all of a sudden you're a rebel because things didn't go your way. No, we ride or die. We loyal. And because we never put all of our hopes and dreams in one issue or one package. The only time you can put your hopes and dreams in one package is when you put your faith in Almighty God, Allah, and through the example of his messenger. My dear brothers and sisters, that is my time. And as I always say, every week, love your black self and love your black kind. I greet you as I came to you with the greetings of peace. Assalamu alaikum.
brother and your sister, and that we want you in this circle of safe from a Savior that is willing to save you and me. Thank the Master, God Muhammad, Almighty God, for coming to save you and me. And the word that you have heard of him, please take them to heart. Go wherever you may go, and tell others of your kind that the Savior have arrived.
God come to destroy unrighteousness and to set up righteousness. We have been lost from our home for now a little over 400 years. We are now trying to find the way home. But when we read the history of our forefathers coming into America, well, not say coming into America, they never would have been here if it had been left to them. Since they was brought here by force of those who wish to commercialize on their labor. That's right. Why not you tell them, I was not here until you brought me here. That's right. Now, if I am a burden to you, why not take me back where I came from?
We find the history of the Nation of Islam coming only a generation after the emancipation of enslaved blacks in America. In spite of so-called freedom, Southern blacks were greatly relegated to sharecropping, which in many respects is slavery by another name. Elijah Muhammad, named Elijah Poole at birth, was born in October of 1897 in Sandersville, Georgia. Since black births were not recorded in the vital records, he did not have a certificate of his actual birth date. He only knew he was born in October. Elijah was born to sharecropping parents, and his grandparents were themselves former slaves. As it was common for the time, he left school in what would have been considered early elementary so that he could support the family working in the fields. In his early adulthood, he married Clara Evans, and like many blacks, they migrated to Detroit, fleeing the South for better opportunities. This journey from the South to the West, Midwest, and Northern U.S. is known as the Great Northern Migration. Unfortunately, instead of finding better opportunities, the Great Depression of the 30s sidetracked industry and employment. While white men found themselves in the unemployment and bread lines, blacks were in despair and extreme poverty amplified severely by prejudice and racism. It was at this time, at the height of desperation and anguish, that Elijah Poole met a curious stranger, Master W.F. Muhammad, who founded the Nation of Islam in 1930. He was teaching blacks in Detroit the history of their people and that their true way of life is Islam, which means peace. He taught them that they were mentally and morally dead after the horrors of American slavery had stripped them of their identity, self-love, and self-respect. He taught them that self-reliance, not dependency on white America, was the answer to their problems, and he taught that the key to their success was unity. He taught that blacks did not have a true knowledge of themselves or others, and that the hiding of this truth is what kept them in a cage of ignorance. Whereas groups like the NAACP promoted integration, the teachings of Master Fard Muhammad promoted separation, and paramount was the doctrine of do for self. Elijah accepted this teaching after his meeting Master Fard Muhammad in 1931 and became the chief minister. That year, he was taken aside and taught for 3 1/3 years, face to face, and as he said, he was given everything required to resurrect his people from mental death and free them from dependency and the illness of self-hatred. He was given the name Elijah Kareem and later Elijah Muhammad by Master Fard Muhammad, who subsequently disappeared mysteriously. The federal government immediately commenced to harassing the Muslims, intimidating visitors to the Muslim meetings, and infiltrating the mosque with agents and implants. Despite the persecution by the FBI and local authorities, the teachings shared by Elijah Muhammad began taking root in the black community. Pride and dignity and a desire to be independent of the shackles of dependency and want spread through America. A people who called themselves Negro and colored began calling themselves black. They began loving their blackness as a virtue, wherein once it was deemed a curse. The Muslims became popular among their people and demonstrated how, through unity, love, and self-reliance, we can be restored from ignorance and neediness to discipline, respect, and self-sufficiency. The black community saw the Muslims as producers, and under the leadership of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, they witnessed an explosion of industry and commerce. Examples include the food markets, such as your supermarket, Guarantee Bank and Trust, the Muhammad Speaks newspaper and printing press, restaurants, clothiers, farms, and many other industries. The teachings changed the condition of black people. Of the many accomplishments of the Nation of Islam, the educational institution, the University of Islam, was among the finest. The first principal was his wife, Sister Clara Muhammad, and despite imprisonment and persecution for educating Muslim children in Muslim schools, the believers of the Nation of Islam persisted, and the educational system blossomed to over 40 schools throughout the nation. In no time, Messenger Elijah Muhammad was submitting ads in the Muhammad Speaks newspaper, searching for teachers to meet the needs of a growing school system. Prestigious journalists from the U.S., Japan, China, and other nations sought interviews with Messenger Elijah Muhammad to learn more about his work with black people in America. Prominent black leaders were attracted and inspired by the teachings, and Reverend Martin Luther King Jr. visited with the messenger on several occasions. Others who were inspired included black entertainers and athletes. Muhammad Ali, formerly Cassius Clay, accepted Islam as taught by the messenger. He was one of the many of the messenger's prolific ministers, and his popularity as a successful boxer was enhanced when he gained a knowledge of himself and his people. He was both hated and loved for his acceptance